morning, everyone. Welcome back. Just one more week till spring break, right?
That's true.
Let's get through this week. So this week we have a bit of stuff to do. We have a lab on Tuesday. We have an assignment on Sunday before you go off to spring break, right? So it's this week's pretty important stuff. So let's hang in there. I know around like 8 when I was student 2, around like week 9 this week. Around like week 8, week 9, I start checking out of school. Don't do that. Don't be me. Hang in there. At least you get a break next week. What I love about spring semesters, you get a spring break kind of in the middle of the semester, so you get to kind of take a break and then come back feeling refreshed. So, yeah, hang with me this week, and then next week we'll have spring break. So hope you get some good rest, and then we'll finish off the rest of the semester strong when you get back. Okay. All right. So today we're gonna, now that we kind of learned how to design a database and what that kind of looks like, and again, there's so much to designing databases. So when you submitted your assignment last night, I asked you to write some, if you want to write justifications and why you design your database in such a way that is gonna help us grade a lot. Okay, so now that we kind of understand designing databases, let's now finally interact with databases. We're slowly getting there, right? We still haven't learned about, okay, now how do we interact with databases with our website, with our web application? We're slowly getting there. Before we can get there, we have to now learn one more language. It's called SQL, aka structured query language, aka select query language. And the other day somebody was, oh, SQL, isn't that like squirrel? So, I guess there's, that was a new one, but I guess there's multiple ways of looking at it. Yeah. So let's talk about SQL real quick. So SQL, SQL, short for structured query language, it's another language. It's a rather simple language. It's not a crazy programming language, it's not a programming language. It's not like JavaScript or PHP, anything like that. Essentially, it's going to allow us to grab data from our database, because that's important. Right now that we have a database, we store all the movies, we stored all this information in our database. Now we got to actually interact with the database. We have to pull the data out, right? Eventually, in our web, thinking a little bit ahead, and eventually with our web application, we need to be able to pull the data from the database, right? We also need to be able to store it back into the database, right? We need to be able to interact with our database. So the first step of that is to talk about SQL. So we're going to be I'm using a slightly more complicated database for this SQL exercise. So it's a song database. It's a database of songs, and it hasn't been updated in a while, so it's a pretty old list of songs, but at least nevertheless, it's a huge database, and there's actually a lot of different pieces here. As you can see, this is the EAR diagram of the song database we're going to be using. There's a lot of stuff. It is actually invoiced. It actually tracks like if people bought songs and things like that, but we're going to try to keep this simple. We're going to be interacting with mostly just this piece of it here, which is we're going to be interacting with the tracks. Tracks is like the song name. This is all information in the songs. There's genres of the song, media types, right? They're in their own table. Genre is its own table. Media is its own table. Albums, it's its own table. And look how interesting that is. Artists. Notice how this is whoever designed the database. This is what we have to work with. So we have to work with this. We have to kind of take a look at this. As you can see, instead of them having artists mapped directly into the tracks, they're going through albums. Okay, so it has a one-to-many relationship with albums, right? One artist can have many albums, and in one album, there can be many tracks. That's kind of how they designed it. Again, we could have done a many-to-many relationship with tracks and artists as well, right? So there's different ways to design a database, but in this case, this is what we're working with. This is what we have. So this is kind of what we're stuck with. So this is what we're going to use. So keep in mind here. So again, tracks is kind of like our main table with all of our song information. We have other tables that are giving us back information. So again, songs, right? There's a name of the song. There's the album ID. Album ID maps back to the album, right? Media type ID maps back to the media type. Genre, composer, so on and so forth. Oh, here are they. Okay, so let's talk SQL just a little bit here. Like I mentioned, SQL, structured query language, also known as select query language, however you'd like to call it, or not however you'd like to call it, but this is kind of the common thing. Yeah, and most databases, most SQL type data, most relational databases use SQL too, so that we can interact with that. All right. And just know that some have slightly different flavors. So if you're using an Oracle database versus a MySQL database versus a Microsoft SQL database, there's slightly different flavors of SQL. Just keep that in mind. It's not too different though. So as long as you know the MySQL database SQL, you kind of understand all of them. It's just important to know SQL commands aren't case sensitive. So whether you use capital letters or lowercase letters, they don't care, so just keep that in mind. SQL commands, okay, commands, not necessarily everything else. But it is good practice. Again, now that we're learning a new language, we have to again learn about new best practices. We like to capitalize the SQL commands, the keywords in SQL, and they look something like this. You can notice how select is capitalized right here, SELECT. That's kind of indicating this is a SQL command. This is a SQL keyword. I don't have to capitalize select like this. I could just have done all lowercase select. However, in SQL, the best practice or common practice, best practice is that we want to do all caps here. Same with from. Notice how from is also capitalized. And again, more. We're going to be writing SQL looks something like this. We're going to be writing a lot of things that look something like this. All right. What we're going to be first talk about it with SQL is retrieving data. So number one thing, if we're storing all this information in a database, we have to eventually get it out, right? We have to retrieve our data. We have to be able to take some data out of our database. So if you have, like you guys we created a database of football games this weekend, and you have like 20 football games. If you want to look up a specific game, we have to somehow be able to do that, right? So to retrieve data, that's where that select keyword, select command comes from. Select allows us to retrieve, these are the fields we're looking for. Select track ID, for example, something like these. These are the fields, the columns we're looking for. From specifies where, what table, what are you looking for in tracks. Okay, and this will give us retrieve us a list of tracks inside the tracks table. And you could also put something like, you could also add a little bit more refinement if you want, where a track price is more than 99 cents, maybe some other more expensive tracks. Or you could do like where, I don't know, where you could specify a specific thing. And you could also do order by, where you could actually order, do you want it like alphabetical order, or do you want it from least to greatest? It does that for you really, really well. So just showing you that with SQL, you can easily grab pieces of data from your database pretty easily, and you could do a pretty refined search. You could do order by, you can do where to give a more specific condition on what you want to search for. There's a lot of different where operators. I do want to show you that. There's equal to, right? This kind of brings you back to your programming 101 days. Like equal to, not equal to actually looks like this. Like it's like a diamond kind of looking thing. Greater than, less than, right? You could also look for is null, is not null. Like we could actually look for null. Like what if this track doesn't have a artist? Like it's a null value. We can look for that as well. So on and so forth. So something looks something like this. All right. So let's go ahead and try some of this out. All right, so let's start with basics. So again, in this class, we're all about being very fundamentals. We don't just rush into things, right? So we're gonna start with a very basic select command, and then we're gonna work our way up to a little bit more complex select commands here. All right, so let's go ahead and close this up here. Oh, actually, I'm gonna leave this open. Okay, let me leave this open because we want to reference this. Okay, and okay, let's go back to make sure you do your attendance. Don't forget to do your attendance. You have 2 minutes left. All right, if you go to today's course, today's lecture notes right over here, Intro to SQL, retrieving data from DB. Okay, we're gonna have to do a couple things. First things first, like I mentioned, we're gonna be interacting with the song database, which doesn't exist for you just yet. So let's go ahead and do that. The easiest way to import a bunch of data is notice how there's a SQL file here. Let's go ahead and click that. Let's go ahead and download this right over here and let it load. I'm gonna go to desktop and let's go ahead and download this, save this in here. For now, it doesn't matter where I save. This is more like it's a one-time file I'm going to import in. All right, let's go to our cPanel. We've done that before, cPanel. Let's go to our cPanel. Let's go and log in. Okay. Alrighty, and let's go to our MySQL databases. Back to our familiar one. So far you've created 2 databases, right? The first one was from our film example, and the second one was from your assignment. You create the football games database. We're going to create one more database. It's going to be called the SongDB, and of course I need to erase it real quick. Hold on. Okay. I have to erase it because I created one and I forgot to remove it last semester. All right, let's go ahead and create a new database. Okay, so we're going to call this song_db because that's what it is. We're going to create a new song database. Okay. All right, there it is. There's my song database. There you go. It's empty right now because I haven't put anything in it. So there's my current databases. There's my SongDB. Let's go ahead and add a user. So my DB user. Let's go ahead and add DB user to my SongDB right there. SongDB to make sure so that my DB user can let's give them all privileges so that we can make sure that these let's go back. We can make sure that my SongDB. Okay, my SongDB. It's empty right now, but it's mapped. This user is able to use. So previously in our last week example, what we did is we had to go ahead and create a model and then we forward engineered. That's how we uploaded all this database stuff in, right? But in this case, because we are given a database already, right? Okay, because I'm given a database already, I'm given information already, I don't need to do that. I could just quickly import a database in. Right? So in most, especially when you're in your first job as a developer, whether it's an internship or a full-time job, most of the time this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be importing data that's already there and you're going to import it into your workspace. Most people who actually design a database, that's probably not going to be your first job. Just that's what I'm trying to say. So this is probably a more common scenario where you're just importing in a database that was already created for you. So again, if you missed it, go to today's lecture notes, lecture 13, click on song.sql. It's going to download a SQL file for you. Okay, if you're kind of curious to what that looks like, it's kind of huge. If you're just kind of curious, you can open SQL files in oops, wrong one. You can open SQL files in your Sublime, by the way, if you're just kind of curious. Why don't we just kind of look at it just so you don't have to, just so we can kind of see what that looks like. Again, we don't have to understand everything here, but notice it's a pretty big file. Wow, look at all that. We're gonna add all these songs and add all these artists. Notice all these artists. We're gonna add all these songs and all this stuff into our database. Really, really, really long stuff. All right, cool. So let's go and do that. Back to cPanel. All right, back to cPanel. Make sure you have created your database called SongDB, and make sure you use your user. By the way, do make sure that this works for you because we're going to be using this SongDB for the next few lectures because I don't want to, we don't want to create new databases all the time. All right, so make sure you have the database created, your user is created. Let's go back to my cPanel here, and let's click on PHPMyAdmin. Remember, PHPMyAdmin is just another tool, another piece of software that allows us to interact with the database, kind of like MySQL Workbench. Okay, let's click on, notice how there's your SongDB is right over here, right? We just created the SongDB. It should be empty right now because we just created its brand spanking new. And let's go to import all that data in here. Click on this import button here, import. Okay, and in there it's pretty simple. We're just going to choose a file. We're going to choose that song.sql file that we just downloaded. It was this one right here, right? Let's go and open that. Okay, we just downloaded that one, right? You can just keep everything default as it is. There's just some settings, and let's go ahead and click go. And it might take a little while just because it is a pretty big, there's a lot of data that is getting imported, so let's give it a second. And also I realize we're all doing this at the same time, so that will probably also add to some of our Okay, cool. Awesome. I hopefully you don't see any problems at this point. We're just importing. We're not really doing anything special. And notice how the moment we imported everything, look at all these tables that just got created. Okay, so for example, like my artists, right? In my artist table, I have artist ID. That's a primary key, and I have another field called name, and this is like a list of all the artists in our table. I think there's a lot more than that. You could actually like kind of look at all of this. Woo! Yeah, there's a lot of artists in here. Okay. There's also, right, there's also what's tracks. There you go. Tracks is kind of our main table here where we can interact with all of our track data. Okay. Notice these are like all foreign keys. Okay. This is my primary key, track ID. There's my name, album ID. If that ID maps back to my albums table. Okay, so these are all foreign keys here. There's my composer, milliseconds, and all that. And oh, look, it actually tells you up here. We have 3,500 songs in our database right now, or tracks, not songs, tracks. I'm gonna run it through one more time just in case you missed anything. Okay, just because it's just important. Again, we're gonna be using this database for the next few lectures. One last time. So if you make sure on cPanel, go to databases, click on MySQL databases, create a new database called SongDB. Make sure it looks like something like this, more or less. Make sure you go ahead and assign the user to this specific database. So we're gonna we did that. And then once you did that, we're going to import all that data by going to phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin is under the cPanel as well. Let's go ahead and just do it one more time. phpMyAdmin right here. And with phpMyAdmin, I clicked on import and I chose that SQL file from our lecture notes, and I just imported this in, and now our song database has been populated with all this information for us. Wonderful. Any questions, problems, any weird errors? Okay. I don't know, once in a while at least one person has some kind of weird error. Okay, great. Like I mentioned, in a typical your first job or internship as a developer role, this is probably your most likely scenario where people have just already created data for you, the database for you. You're just kind of importing it in, and then you're working off of that. All right, awesome. So we have a song database. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and try writing some SQL to interact with the data. So obviously, I want to make this clear. With phpMyAdmin, it's great. I can easily, click on tracks with phpMyAdmin. I see all my tracks. That's awesome. Okay. However, phpMyAdmin is only you're able to access phpMyAdmin because you're the owner of this database, right? But most people won't have, definitely the public will not have direct access to phpMyAdmin. Okay, so we don't want any normal user to come in and start messing around with your database. And look at this, there's like delete buttons here, right? Imagine if some random person came in and started deleting your stuff. That'd be terrible, right? So phpMyAdmin, these tools like these are for your eyes only usually. So because of that, there needs to be a separate way to interact, another way to interact with a database, which is via a programming language like SQL. So let's go ahead and see how we can do this. So phpMyAdmin, again, really great tool, really easy to interact with database, but now let's do it the SQL way, how to interact with databases using SQL. If you go ahead and please open up MySQL Workbench now. I know we're using a lot of different tools here, but this is actually very typical again. When you're working as a developer or a software engineer or whatever they call it these days, you're gonna end up working with a lot of tools. So in this class, we introduce you to a lot of tools because of that. All right, let's go to MySQL Workbench. Again, MySQL Workbench is a nifty tool that allows us to connect to our databases. And from previous lecture, we've already created a connection to ITP Web Dev, right? So we're gonna go ahead and connect. We're gonna go ahead and connect to my database here, right? So if database. Let's first connect to our account. So if I double click on the ITP Web Dev that we created a while ago, it's going to try to connect to our server, and it's going to say like warning, just continue anyway. And you're gonna see, oh, I have like a bunch of stuff open, but you should see, something like this, like a blank piece of file here. I'm gonna go ahead and make this zoom in a little bit on this one so you can see a little better. Okay, notice this is like SQL file or something like that. That kind of gives you a hint, like, oh, we're writing some SQL in here. Okay, and on the left side here, or for some of you it was like down here for some reason. However you get to this area, this schema section, I think you could like move this around. Anyway, the schema section here, notice how it has a list of all your databases. Again, I have like a billion of them because of past classes, but you should see something like SongDB here. Okay, you should probably also see your film DB here as well as your football DB as well here somewhere, right? But you're going to see your SongDB. Okay, let's go ahead and right click that and make sure you set this as your default, set as default schema. That means we're going to be working with this database, right? Yes. Yeah. Or just, you don't have to add a new connection. Yeah, open the connection that are there. Yes. No, we're not creating, we're going to be using, we only use models when you want to create a new database. We're not at this time anymore. We're just importing it in. All right, so if this is not, for whatever reason, if you don't see this, you could always create a new connection, use that plus icon, and then you can, like, set up your own connection, make sure the host name is our URL, all that stuff. You make sure your username is blah, blah, right? So, yeah. But otherwise, if you just go ahead and open this, we should be able to see something like this. Okay, and on your left side here, let me see if I can move this down. On your left side here, you're going to see all your database information. We're going to right click on the SongDB one and then set as default schema. Make sure it's bolded. Okay, make sure that SongDB is bolded right over here. And the reason for that is, again, we have many databases on our account right now. We don't want to. We want to work with the song database. I don't want to work with the film or the football one. I want to work with my song. So there it is. Okay, make sure it's bolded. Once it's bolded, I'm gonna make this bigger so you can see this. As you can see, this looks like a typical like just text editor kind of thing. It kind of is. This is gonna allow us to write some SQL here. And oh wow, look at how it actually does a lot of autofill for you here as well. Let's start with the basics that we learned. We talked about earlier. Select. Okay, select is like the most basic of all commands. So today, what we're gonna talk about simply is how to find stuff from our data, how to retrieve things from the database. Okay, we're not going to worry yet about how to add things to the database or anything like that. We're simply going to look up stuff from the database. We're going to do a search kind of using SQL. All right, so it starts with select. Select is probably the most basic and most commonly used commands in SQL. We're going to select, let's go ahead and do star. Star means select all my columns. All right, so let's keep it simple. Let's just select star. And I'm going to say from, select usually goes with from, tracks. Okay, that means go grab all my fields from the table called tracks. Okay, tracks. Also another nice thing about MySQL Workbench, you can actually, if you click on tables, you can actually see all the table names. If you forget the table names, they're all there. So tracks. Okay, we're going to select everything from my tracks table. Essentially, we're doing this. We just want to see all of our tracks table here. But we're going to do that with SQL. All right, okay, and then we're gonna continue to write a bunch of SQL statements in here. So click on top of here. You see there's a lightning bolt, and then there's a lightning bolt with like a eye on it. I think it's like a cursor, right? Click on that one, the one with the eye on it, because I only want to run this line. I don't want to run like the whole file. I just want to run this line. So make sure you're on that line, and let's go ahead and click on that, and then you're going to see down here, whoa, something popped up, right? A couple things popped up here. You're going to see, oh, there you go. We have our songs, our tracks, I mean, and all of our IDs. Basically the same thing we saw with my PHP admin. Okay, and notice also down here, there's like a output. You might have to move, if you don't see it, you might have to just kind of move it around or something. This is, anytime we see any errors, you're going to see that here. Okay, so we run our very first SQL command, select all my fields, all my columns from tracks. So we get all of our tracks. If you're wondering, by default, my SQL Workbench shows us the first 1,000 results. Okay, because it doesn't want to like blow up your database. But remember that if you recall, I have 3,503 tracks in here right now, but it's only going to show me my first 1,000. That's just the default thing that MySQL Workbench does. Okay, and notice I'm putting like enters here, but it's actually not quite necessary. We could have done this as well. It's the same thing. MySQL Workbench doesn't care about SQL doesn't care about line breaks, but I'm just doing it for readability's sake, right? So very simple stuff. Okay, same idea. So if I do select, right? If I do select from, let's see, what's another? We have like artists here, right? If I do artists, okay, same thing. If I click on this, don't do this one, the second one here. Now I could run just my artists, and notice how I see all my artists as well. Okay, right. Very simple SQL command. Maybe with that. All right, let's do a little bit more. Let's go back to my tracks real quick. Okay. Right, so my tracks, I have a bunch of fields here, right? Track ID, name, album ID, like media type, genre, the composer, who made the music, how long the song is, how big the size is, and the price as well. Okay, but with select, I could do stuff like this. I could do select, right? If I only wanted to see, I could also specify. I could be like, hey, I only care about seeing the track ID, the name, and I don't care about the album ID. Maybe only the composer and milliseconds. Maybe that's like all I want to see. So I can be very specific here. This is like all I want to see from the same table. So I could do stuff like this. So anytime you see select and then anything that comes after this keyword select, it means these are the columns or these are the fields these are the only fields I care about. So if I run this one, okay, I think I misspelled something. Milliseconds, right? Milliseconds. Yeah, by the way, you actually see errors here. These are very useful error responses. Okay, all right, now I'm getting the same information, right? I'm getting the first 1,000 tracks, but now I only see, again, track ID, the name, the composer, and the milliseconds. I can't even scroll left and right. That's all I'm limited to. So this select keyword here allows us to literally select the columns I want to see, which are these specified columns. Any questions so far? Right, cool. Okay, let's do a little bit more, just a little tad more complex. And we use these kind of commands a lot. Display tracks that cost more than 99 cents. Okay, and we also want to sort them from shortest to longest. All right, that's the query we need to make. We want to tell the database, hey, go get tracks that cost more than 99 cents, but sort them from shortest to longest. All right, let's do that then. Okay, I'm gonna just keep keep going down the line here. Okay, and I'm gonna try to make sure I can fit everything. Maybe I can do that here. All right. Okay, comments. By the way, comments in SQL, they look like this. You just dash dash. It's a little weird. Don't do this. Just dash dash. So what do we want to do? We want to display tracks. Let's go ahead and write some comments in here, just so it's easier to understand. Display tracks that cost more than 99 cents. Sort from shortest. Oh, maybe I'm gonna sort from shortest to longest. Wait. Okay, in length. Right. Okay, let's go and try that out. All right, so we're going to start with our select command again, right? And it doesn't specify which columns we should see or anything like that. So I'm just going to select all my columns. All right, I want to show all my columns. Okay, let's go ahead and just keep this in one line. All right, select everything from my tracks. Okay, now let's talk about tracks that cost more than 99 cents. Okay, we need to figure that out real quick, right? Let's look at that again. This is kind of useful. Let's look at my what was that? Tracks, right? Tracks. Okay, what does tracks have? Tracks. Okay, in my tracks, I have all these columns. I have like track ID, name, like album ID, all this, right? Oh, it looks like I also have unit price column. That unit price column is going to tell me how much that track is. Okay, so let's go ahead and select from tracks. Actually, let's go ahead and run this real quick. Select from tracks. Okay, we see all my tracks here. All right, now I want to filter by unit price here. All right, let's go ahead and try that. We're gonna do by the way, semicolon, very important in SQL. You need to have a semicolon at the very end of your command. Okay, don't put it okay, we're gonna do where. All right, where unit price, right? That's my unit price. Unit price. Okay, unit price is greater than 0.99. Semicolon. Pretty straightforward, right? All right, let's go ahead and do that again. And now we see, wonderful. Okay, now we're seeing different results. We see Battlestar Galactica, and it's 199. And all these are the first 1,000 results. Okay. So anytime you want to add a bit of a filter somehow when you're searching, you want to use that where keyword, right? And like I mentioned, there's a lot of different ones out there, right? So we use greater than, but there's less than, right? Equal to, not equal to, is null. There's so many different ways you can filter your data. Okay, let's talk about sort now. Sorting, right? We want to also sort one more thing. Like we have all this data, right? That's just great. We have so much data. That's great. But I want to also sort them from shortest to longest. What the heck does that mean, right? Anyone have any idea which field we need to look at to determine from shortest to longest? Which column does it kind of tell you how long a track is? Yep, milliseconds, right? Milliseconds looks like it's how long a track is. So we want to do it from the shortest track to the longest track. All right, so next we're going to continue down this query here. We're going to do order by. Order by allows us to sort, and we're going to do order by milliseconds. I keep misspelling milliseconds. Milliseconds. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. Let's see what happens. Right, cool. Oh, it shows us by default. This is the shortest track. It looks like Lost Season 4 trailer. That's not a song, but okay. But that's the shortest track, and then Lost in 8:15. That's the second one. Okay, notice how it already sorts for you by default from shortest to longest. So it actually, but if I wanted to go the other way, like longest to shortest, we could add another keyword here. The keyword is DESC. There's actually two: DESC descending, ASC ascending. So if I do descending, I will get the opposite way, where I get the longest one is occupation. I don't know what that song is, right? And now we're going backwards. Okay, so you could add like a little bit of here. By default, it's always ascending, but you can go either way, descending or ascending. Okay, so in our case, we just need ascending. So there you go. Okay, it's pretty straightforward so far. Is this trick? So in your assignment, you're gonna be doing something like this, or not your assignment, your lab. For your lab, that's due tomorrow night. I'm gonna give you something like this, like display blah blah blah, that whatever, and you have to write the SQL statement for it. And in my experience, when I first learned SQL, I thought I was like, oh, that's pretty easy, right? Oh, that's straightforward. Like, why? What the heck? But I realized the moment I started writing my own queries from scratch, it becomes like, wait, what's that again? Wait, what's this? What is where? Right? So don't underestimate SQL. SQL queries can get really, it just can get really weird fast. So what I'm trying to say is, in your lab, make sure you give enough time to submit your work on your lab, because there can be little things that are just tricky that you just don't realize until you actually write it. Right? Okay, let's go ahead and save this file. I've been writing a lot of code I haven't been saving. I'm really scared now. Let's go ahead and file, save the script or save script, and I could save the script. Let's call this And notice how it's going to automatically try to save that SQL file for you. Let's go ahead and save that in our usual folder. I'm going to call this select.sql, just because that's what we're doing today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this, and yay, there you go. And if I open up my Finder, I think I saved in the wrong place. Oh, there it is. Okay, select SQL. So in your lab, also in your assignment, when you're done, you're going to be uploading this SQL file to Blackboard. So just like how on last week's assignment or yesterday's assignment, you submitted the MWB file, this time you're going to submit a .sql file to Blackboard. Okay, and then when you come back from spring break, we'll finally bring it back to our web stuff. We'll finally tie in SQL with the rest of the stuff we've been learning on the front end. So we're getting there, but this is for this week. We're going to be uploading these SQL files. Okay, save, save, save. Don't forget to save. Saving is very important. By the way, you might have seen things like this where, so right now we're only working with a tracks table, so it doesn't matter as much. But you can also specify like unit price, right? Unit price is coming from the tracks table, right? So if you want to be a little more specific, you can also use dot notation to write something like this. Again, not required, but you just see this a lot. Like this is just extra explicitly saying, look for the milliseconds field in the tracks table. Although, I mean, we're already referring to tracks, so this is a little redundant actually, but some people just like to have that just as like a extra safety kind of thing here. Okay. All right, let's do another one. Oh, you guys got those. Let's go. Let's move on. Let's move on. Display tracks that have a composer. Okay. Only show the track's ID, name, composer, and price. Okay, let's look at our tracks. Where's our tracks? Let's write this right. What is this? Display tracks that have a composer. What was it? Only show the name, composer, and unit price. Right? I think that was right. Okay. All right, same idea. We're gonna start with select. Okay, in this case, we can't just do we're still gonna go from to tracks, but it says only show tracks ID, name, composer, and price. So I can't just do the star. Star, the symbol means like all, right? I need to be a little bit more specific here. I'm gonna just select track ID. Let's do name and milliseconds and unit price, right? Oh, okay. This is getting a little.
What the ID composer?
Oh, name and composer, yes, and not milliseconds. Yeah. Okay, ID, name, composer, unit price. Okay, we're gonna get it from tracks. All right, I can actually run this. This will work. Okay, cool. Oh, perfect. So notice how some composers have a null value in this case, which I don't know why actually, because I'm sure every song has a composer. But for whatever reason, in our database, we're seeing that some of these composers, or some of the tracks don't have a composer for whatever reason. All right, so when we're in this query where we want to make sure that all of our songs have a composer. We only want to display tracks that have a composer. Okay, so we're going to filter here again. So when we want to think filter, we use that where keyword. Okay, where composer, right? How do we do this? Does not exist. What, right? There's actually a very neat keyword is not null. Okay, it's actually back here. If you want to, is not null, is null. Okay. So by the way, this null is different from that. Okay, there's a big difference. There's a difference between an empty string versus null. Null is actually a data type, or a SQL treats it as such. So that little null, it actually means null. So we're actually looking very specifically for is not null. Okay, now if I run this, yay, I get all the songs come up, and they all have some composer. So this is saying all my I'm only showing you tracks that have some kind of composer. Any questions so far? So far, so good. Okay, cool. All right. Again, we're just doing some practice here. So we talked about where. All right, we talked about where. Awesome. Let's talk about another command operator called like. Right? So when you're retrieving data from a database, when you're doing like a search on a database, you might want to be a little bit more specific, right? Like when you're looking for a track, maybe you're looking for a specific name track, a specific name of song, specific artist name, right? So that like operator is very useful here, and we use these percent signs a lot. For example, if we're looking for land, okay, but I don't remember the specifics. Land percent will find land, landmarks, and landlord. Anything with the word land in it, and afterwards, I don't care. Okay. Or the other way will show us land, island, highland. Makes sense, right? So that percent is used as like a wildcard. Or we could also do this as well. We check both, and then now we find both land, landmark, and island. Okay, so this like allows us to build even more refined search. Or you could even do spaces here like this if you're looking for like this land, like something like that. Okay, pretty nifty here. All right, let's go ahead and try that out. Oh, okay. One more thing though. So we can do like, as well as we can have multiple where clauses. We can use our or and signs to specify. Maybe I'm looking for a song with a genre ID or 24. Maybe I'm looking for jazz tracks or pop songs. Or maybe I'm looking for media type ID and genre. Maybe I'm looking for MP4 files with a genre ID 24 pop songs. So I could specify, again, more refinement. So like operators and using and or operators, we can do even more refined searches. Okay. Let's go try some of this out before I go on further. Okay. We're gonna look for tracks that have you or they in their titles. Okay. All right. Display tracks. Display tracks that have you or they. Okay, in this case we don't care which one, so we're going to select from tracks. Okay, tracks. Okay, we're going to select from tracks. Okay, and we are going to go ahead and do some refinement. So where name, let's go into the first one. Where name like. Okay, let's go ahead and, so if I do name like you, for example, okay, just straight up you, it's going to look for tracks. Oh, I guess there's none. It's going to look for just exactly you, like the song name you, which I guess doesn't exist. If I start putting ampersand here and here, okay, now it's going to get, oh, anytime it sees the word you, it's going to, notice how it shows up, you. If you want to be more specific, if you want to look for titles that start with you can do that. Just you, right, as well. Okay, in this case, I don't care. I want both. Or if I do something like this, I'll get, there you go, you. Right, so these wildcards are kind of nice. In this case, I don't care exactly where it shows up as long as the word you shows up somewhere in my tracks. That's good. Name, again, name is coming from name. Okay, but where I'm also looking for day as well. So let's go ahead and add this here, where name is like you, or let me go ahead and put that, or name like day. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. So where name is like you, or it's like day. So now if I run this, I'm going to get some songs with you, and as well as songs with like Tuesday, right? There's day. Okay, that's pretty, makes sense, right? Any questions about this? Okay, because we're about to do some next level stuff now. Right? Okay, that's pretty easy. What about this? Display tracks. We're adding a little more refinement. Display tracks composed by you two that have you or day in their titles. Okay, let's try that out. Was it display composed by you two that have you or day in. Okay, a little bit more refinement here. Same thing, let's go ahead and select from tracks. Okay, we're going to select all my fields from tracks. Where right, like it's like, oh, does that mean we can just do like where name like you or name like day, right? And like, and its composer is like something with you two in it. Okay, let's see what we get. Weird results, right? I'm looking for a composer, you two, but I'm getting all these weird composers right now. I am getting some you songs. Do I get any day songs? I don't think so. I'm only getting, basically I think I'm only getting you songs here. Okay, so what does that tell you? This is not quite what I'm looking for here. Okay, maybe I should do something like this, right? Okay, so what this tells you is that we have some order of operations issues. Okay, what this is actually doing. Okay, I know we're saying where name like you or name like day and composer like you two. Okay, but actually there's a bit of order operations issue and always takes precedence. Okay, so what this is actually doing is it's doing something like this. Maybe this is easier to understand like that. Okay, I'm putting parentheses. I don't have to put parentheses here, but I'm just showing you, right? What this is saying is look for songs that have you, okay, or name like day and composer you two, which I guess doesn't exist. That's why we don't see any you two songs show up. Okay, one more time. When you're using and or together in the where clause like this, okay, and takes precedence. It's like a order of so we don't just go by order. There's a bit of order operations in play, not too much, but there is a little bit. And actually takes precedence because I forgot where I learned this. I think it was like an EE class. Like and is like equivalent to like multiplier versus or is like a plus sign. Anyway, I don't know if that's where that comes from actually, but anyway, and takes precedence. So what actually happens in here is it kind of breaks it up into these parts. We're looking for tracks where name is like you or it fits this clause here, name and composer. So you want to watch out for that. So of course, if you don't want to do this, right, this is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a little bit something like this, where name, right, this is what I'm looking for, where name, kind of like that is what we're looking for, right? Well, that's like in plain English, I know what I'm looking for, but SQL, again, when you're working with computers, you can't just expect them to know plain English. You gotta be very specific. So we're saying now this makes more sense, right? Where either or, right? Where it's you or they in it, but it has to be composed by you two and composer like you two. So either way is fine. Either whether you or they, but it's also and composed by. So I only want to see songs that are composed by you two ultimately, right? So let's go ahead and run this, and now we should see. There you go. We have composer U2, right? There's also other U2 songs here, and this is your YOU, your New Year's Day, you. Apparently, U2 wrote a lot of songs with you and they in it. I mean, they wrote a lot of songs, period. So I'm not surprised. Any questions about that? Okay. Just keep that in mind. Order of operations comes into play when in your where clauses and takes precedence. I think as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be fine. Right? So when you start testing results and you get weird results, it's time to check your order of operations maybe. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. So if I did YouTube or YouTube, right, it's case sensitive. Yep. By default, SQL is all case insensitive. Yes. I think I could have even done this, like composer or something. It'll still give me the same thing. Yep. Okay.
Is there a way to make it case sensitive?
Yes. I don't know it off the top of my head. There is though. There's like a keyword. Yeah. Good questions. Alrighty, let's go on here. What's next? Oh, okay. I see what we're doing next. All right, let's take it back again. Going back to the diagram, it's always helpful to have a diagram up while you're working on your while you're working with databases. So, like, just to quickly review, we've been working a lot with the tracks here, but we also have artists and albums here. Okay, let's take a look at our artists and albums real quick. Okay, so we've been doing a lot with track. Let's take a look at select. Let's go and look at my albums real quick here. Okay, so my albums. Okay, my albums, notice how I have the title of the album, and then this ID here is telling me which artist this album belongs to. Right, we have a foreign key. This is the foreign key here. There's a bit of a relationship between artist and the album. Okay, this is great. However, this is kind of, I don't know what artist ID 1 is, right? I think somebody posted this on Piazza, like, these like IDs are kind of weird. Like, we don't know exactly what artist ID 1 is, right? We have to actually go back to the artist table, right? We would have to run something like this. Okay, what is artist ID number 1? Artist 1, artist, right? Oh, artist ID 1 is AC/DC. Oh, okay, so AC/DC, this is AC/DC's album for those about to, I think it's like rock or something. Okay, okay, oops. Uh-oh, I'm filtering. Oh my goodness. Anyway, right? Okay, so back to albums, right? We don't, right? This is all these separating tables and stuff is great for database design, but once we come back to now actually doing things, looking things up, right? This is going to be a bit of a problem. We can't really understand, oh, what is, at least to a normal human being, like, we don't know what title, what artist ID 1 is right away. I have to, like, do a double, kind of a double query thing, which is not the most efficient. The question here then is there a way to show my artist ID, like, right next to my title? Is there a way we can kind of join these tables together? Oh, yes, there is. There's a keyword called join. Okay. So is there a way to put these tables together so I can see, like, I can easily map things to each other? Like, can I see that this song, this album we can actually see it's AC/DC, it's not ID. Okay. So let's go and try that out. What is my, okay. Join. We're going to join, albums and artists together. Okay, so join is a temporary thing. Just because I join something doesn't mean I like create a table or anything like that. Okay, guys, just FYI. All the stuff we're doing right now, these are all temporary, obviously, right? When you search, we're just temporary search getting, retrieving data, right? So these are all temporary. I'm not actually like altering our database at this point, right? Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with select everything from my albums. Okay, let's start there, right? Okay, let's start with my albums. Okay, in my albums, alrighty, we're gonna join artists. Makes sense? We're gonna join these two tables together. All right, I want them to go together. Actually, what happens if I run this? Okay, actually, let's start there, right? If I join, notice how now in this one view I have, this is my album title, my album ID, album title, there's my artist ID, there's my artist ID, there's my name. It's kind of weird though, it doesn't really, right? I'm just literally putting these two together. There's no mapping in between anything like that right yet. Okay, it's kind of weird right now, but yes, we're joining these two together. But we don't want to do that. That's not where we end. I want to join these together where we need to find like an intersection point where these two match up, right? So in this case, I'm going to do something like this, where where artist ID, right? Where artist ID equals artist ID, kind of weird, right? So the better, maybe a little bit more specific here, where my album's artist ID, right? Where my album's artist ID is equal to my artist's artist ID. Let's take a real quick, let's make sure it, I'm totally, artists, okay, there you go. Okay, let me explain this one more time. Yeah. So we're starting at albums. Okay, we're gonna join albums with my artists. We're gonna merge these two tables together. However, I want to be a little more specific. I want to merge them where at what point? At this, what are the two things? What is the column they both have in common? It's that artist ID, right? Artist ID is a foreign key from my album table, whereas artist ID is the primary key in my artist table, right? So I'm going to use that one thing to join them together. Notice how now they all match up, right? So now I have, oh, for those about, okay, that's AC/DC. For Balls to the Wall, that's Accept, right? Let There Be Rock, that's another AC/DC song, or AC/DC album. Big Ones is Aerosmith's album, so on and so forth. Obviously, this is like a pretty, like 80s kind of database, right? But anyway, interesting. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Let me show you one more. I learn with a lot of visuals. Let me show you one more thing before I move on here. Join. Okay, I have some slides on this. Join again. It's very useful to combine records from multiple tables based on the relationship, of course, right? So the syntax looks something like this. Okay, so we have two tables. We're joining them where they intersect, right? Where the artist IDs are intersection points. So we do that, and so we do something like this. These are some more examples. So again, join. Kind of think of a table A. Table A is like our albums table. Table B is our artist. Join allows us to merge them together by a I'm sorry, did I do where here? It should be join on. Sorry, join. I can't believe join where actually worked. that is a little concerning to me. Okay, join on. Okay. Okay, join on. Join from A to B, we're joining. There's actually also left join. We're not gonna do it in our database. It doesn't really matter. But there's there's left join. There's also right join as well. All that means is, you know, you've seen Venn diagrams before. I hope like back in elementary school and stuff. All that means is we're gonna grab everything from table A, and we're gonna everything that there's similarities. In our case, it doesn't quite matter because all of my albums have an artist, so whether I do join or left join, I'm going to get all my albums anyway, but I can do either one. Let's go back here again. So one more time, we're going to select from albums. We're going to start with my albums table. We're going to join artists together, and we're going to where these two matches where we're going to join them. By the way, the order doesn't matter. I could have totally just done like this as well. The order doesn't matter. This case. Okay, and okay, let's do a little bit more refinement here. I'm gonna leave this alone. I'm gonna refine this just a little bit. Okay. Okay, same thing. We're still gonna, right? But obviously I don't need IDs at this point anymore. Right, I really don't care for that. So I could actually just say like select, it could be a little more specific, title and name. Okay, now it's a little bit, oh, there's my album, right? This album refers to AC/DC. Okay, it's this one right here. Okay, AC/DC. Okay. And also though, however, another thing to think about, because now that we've gotten all this information, this field is called title, and this field is called name, right? Title, name, album ID. But now that we have two tables joined together, title, I'm like, what the heck is title? What the heck is name? Like, what does that refer to? It can get a little confusing, right? So we could actually use aliases. Something called aliases, which I have in the slides as well. We could use aliases to just like rename things real quick. So instead of like title, let's say, right? I'm saying go get my title. I can say title as like album. I don't know. I could name it whatever I want. Album title, and now I'm gonna see. Oh, it says album title here now instead of what is it, name or something. Again, it's AS, as we're just aliasing. It's just another easier way for us to view this data. Not required or anything like that, but once you have like when you're joining a lot of tables together and you have all these like different column names and you're like what's what, people like to alias. Now it's a little more obvious. Oh, this is the album title, and then we could even alias. Let's go and alias our as artist name as well. Right now we have. Oh, now it's a little more clear. Again, not required, but it just makes it easier for us to work with this. Save, Command S, Control S. All right, questions, concerns. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Okie dokes. Let's do one last one. So this is like a very simple example of join. Let's do one more complex one so that you're prepared to take on some more real world challenges. Okay. Oh yeah. This is my slides on aliasing. Right. Okay. We can alias things. All right, aliases. All right, let's move on to this one. All right. Oh, we did this already, actually. Ooh, okay, we're going to be a little more refined here. I want to get just jazz tracks. Going back to my tracks table, okay? I want to get jazz tracks. So genre, okay, specifically. I want to get jazz tracks. But I want to show some more information. Track name, genre name, right? I want to show more columns here. Right, so let's go ahead and try that out. This is going to be our last example here. Okay, display. What is it? Display all jazz tracks. Okay. Let's start there. Let's start, one step at a time before we overwhelm ourselves. Let's just select from tracks. We're back to our tracks table. Okay, in our tracks table we have a lot of tracks. Okay, and we have genre ID. Genre ID will tell us what track it is. Okay. I don't know what genre ID 1 means though, so I might have to. Let's do a quick. Yeah, let's take a quick look at genres because I just don't remember. Okay, cool. Jazz is easy. Jazz is genre ID number 2. Okay. So we can do select from tracks where genre ID equals 2. Notice it's 2, not string. I forgot to mention this. If you put anything between single quotes, that's like a string. So in our case, it's an integer. IDs are going to be integers, so we want to keep it at 2. Alrighty, so we're getting all these jazz tracks. Sweet. Okay. I know this might be a bit of a pain, like, oh, why do we have to look up IDs and all this stuff? It seems like a bit of a pain, but this is actually a very good thing to do because we're not searching by name, right? We're not doing like genre, like jazz, okay? We're doing simply genre 2, which is a very, very quick search. Computers are really good at computing numbers, right? So it's just gonna look for 2, and it's a really quick return. Versus something like jazz, right? If you're like trying to like do that, there's some. I mean, it's still, it's not a bad thing. It will work, but just to be extra efficient, we want to do jazz ID equals 2 here, or genre ID equals 2 here. Okay, I'm gonna leave this alone because just so you have it for your reference. Okay, now let's refine this. Okay, show. Holy crap. Okay, show track name. Okay, genre. Oh man, I'm gonna write all this. Genre, album title, and artist name. Ooh, artist name as well. Ooh. Let's start simple. Okay, now that we have a lot of different things in let's just start simple. Let's go ahead and select everything, okay, from my tracks, right? Okay. However, we want to see the actual genre name at this point, right? So we're gonna have to do the join here. Genre is coming from a different thing. So let's do select. Let's see, how can we make this simple? Select from. Okay, let's go ahead and join this. Join. All right, we're going to join genres. Okay, on. Okay, I'm indenting here because it's just a little easier to read here. Okay, we're gonna join on genres. Right, we want to join on this genre ID, right? So maybe we gotta be a little more specific here. Genre ID from tracks, right? This one, where on equals genre ID from genre. Okay, let's just pause there. Where tracks dot genre ID equals 2. Okay. Oh, there it is, right? So we've joined 2 tables, the tracks, which has a ton of stuff, and also my genre ID here.
Okay, they're all jazz tracks here. Okay, we can do a little more refinement here. Right, my select, I don't have to show everything. I can select my name, select my, what do I need? The genre, I need the album. Oh, we gotta do album ID eventually. We'll get there, and we gotta do like, okay, let's just start there. And I get an error because, oh, it's ambiguous. Holy cow, right? There you go. Oh. Yay. Holy cow. Okay, I'm showing my track's name, my genre name, and also my album ID at this point. Okay. Right. Now, next thing I gotta do is I gotta go get my album as well. Okay, looks like there's a bunch of albums. So we gotta do yet another join. Okay, I still only want jazz tracks though, so I'm leaving this alone. Okay, we're gonna join albums. We're gonna join another table on. Okay, on tracks dot album ID, right? Album ID equals albums. I think album also has. I can also look at it here as well. Albums has a album ID, right? Album ID right there. Album ID. So that album ID. Okay. Right now I want to show up here instead of album ID, I want to show album dot title. There you go, title. I'm getting title from here. Okay, now I run that. Whoa. There it is. This is becoming really, let me bump this down just a little bit. There you go. Okay, we got track name, we got genre name here, we got album title here, and we're joining twice. We joined the genre table first, and then we joined the album title. I want one more information here, okay, which is the artist information. Okay, so artist is coming from yet another table, right? And we want to now join that with my albums as well. So there's another join here. Whoa, join gets pretty hairy really fast, right? Join on. We're gonna join artists as well. Artists. I can't spell on. Okay, now it's a little bit different. We're gonna do albums dot. What was it? Artist ID, right? Artist ID. Okay, equals artists dot artist ID. This one is coming from my artist. Okay. Oh man, maybe I should have. Okay. Anyway. I got an error. You have an error in your syntax. Oh. There you go. Okay, but even though I joined it, I'm not seeing it yet, so I need to alter my select here. Now I'm gonna do artists dot, what is it? Artist dot, what is it? Name or something? Oh yeah, name. Whoa. Woo. That was a. That's a lot of stuff. But I hope you get the gist of it. I mean, yeah, we did a lot, but I hope you get the gist of it, right? That's always the important thing, right? So the key thing was I only wanted to get jazz tracks still, right? I only wanted, that was like the big thing there, but however, I also wanted to show a lot of information. I wanted to show the genre, the actual genre name here. That's why I had to join. Okay, and I had to actually show the album name. That's why I also joined. And then lastly, I needed to show the artist name. That's why I also joined the artist. So these are all just, we're merging 3 tables together in one, just so I can see all this together in one nice fashion. And then notice all these fields, by the way, all the columns are named terribly, right? Name, title, name. What the heck does that mean? This is where aliasing comes in really handy. We're going to track name as like track name, right? Genre as genre name, and we're getting really, really long here, but I realize we've been clicking on this a lot. Keyboard shortcut instead of clicking on this, if you don't like clicking things, it's a command or control return, and it will just run this wherever your cursor is. It'll run that command for you. Okay. Whew. So these are some jazz tracks. Very important. I just want to point out one last thing. Notice how I'm doing tracks.name, genres.name. So tracks and genres both have this column called name or field called name. So it can be ambiguous. That's why I had to actually specify, oh, this genres table versus tracks table here. That's the whole statement here. All right, any questions, concerns? Okay, save. Okay, save. All right, your assignment or your lab. So your assignment actually, you can't, I don't think you can, I assigned it just so you see that it's there, but I don't think you can really work on assignment 8 until Wednesday's lecture. But lab 5, the thing that's due tomorrow, a very similar idea. We're just going to write a bunch of select SQL statements. However, you're going to use a different database. So you're going to have to import one more database, just like how we did in class with the song database. You're going to import one new database of DVDs. I know people don't watch DVDs anymore, but anyway. You guys know what a DVD is? Okay, just kidding. Okay. Okay, good. I don't know. Some things people say scare me. Anyway, the first part is pretty straightforward. It's just making sure you import your database, this new database in, and this is kind of diagram for it, just so you have the idea of that. And then you're going to write some select SQL statements to run this. These are samples, by the way. So yeah, just so it's not too many. It's just like 4 statements you have to write, and that's kind of it. Again, just to help you get into this habit of writing select SQL statements. So once you're done, you make sure you put it on Blackboard, and that's it. You don't have to forward engineer or anything like that. You just write SQL scripts, save it, and put it in your upload it on your Blackboard, and we're gonna run it against your database. So again, against your DVD database, and that's kind of it here. It's really helpful for us, just FYI, to write some comments, like if you're doing, for example, the first one, display albums, blah, 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 right? Might as well just go ahead and put that in your comments, so it's just easier for us to grade. That would be very nice. Just kind of like, put it there, like, write comment, write the prompt, and then write everything. I'll write your SQL statement there. Okay. Alrighty, then that's pretty much it for, that's it for today's class. On Wednesday when we come back, we're going to do more with SQL, but we're going to actually start altering the database. We're going to add things to the database. We're going to remove things from the database, so on and so forth. Okay, have a great week, guys. I will see you on Wednesday.